Nigerians encourage corruption, cites June 1st of the Punch newspaper.
David Mark says this be a dirt.
America's Nigerian Governors Forum calls for Okonjo Iweala's resignation.
Says new PDP.
Page 2 of the Punch newspaper.
The Dailies, every day on CORETV News.
I'm glad to have you back. It's called Digest Extra. And joining us live in the studio right now is an aspirant of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Babatunde Olalere Gbadamosi, is an aspirant of on the platform of the People's Democratic Party for 2015 election that is coming in Lagos State.
Election.
Yeah, and of course, thank you for joining us in the studio today, sir.
It's a pleasure.
But let's quickly take a look at the newspaper review with you. Well, what I'm sure you know what we'll be discussing, you heard what we'll be discussing on the show since a week under review, and we're still seeing some of them appearing in the paper again. And this one, the big one, is why Tinubu dump Buhari for Tambuwa, and this one is on the first page of the Vanguard newspaper. Page 5 is where you can get the details of that story. We'll need your comment there, but let's quickly take a look at some other stories here. Plot to rig 2015 elections. Jega arrests 2 INEC staff over house-to-house registration. Page 5 is where you can get the details of that story. And what happens when a woman, well, I wouldn't want to go into details because of
but it's on the front page of a paper.
Children are watching.
Of course, sex education should be given to children.
They're watching, so I'm thinking that we should play it down a little bit.
No, seriously, because even in schools, it has been encouraged that you must give your children sex education. Sex is not a word we've not heard before, and it should not be treated as such.
Well, the reason why I'm saying
is sex a word we mustn't mention on television?
I personally hold a far more conservative view about things like this, and I generally think that it should be kept in the family.
So it shouldn't have been on the front of a paper?
I absolutely think so, yes.
Well,
are we sure our kids don't know about this?
Well, they do, but
we know.
I'm sure they do, but, you know, I don't think it's necessarily something that we should demonstrate a laissez-faire attitude about. Because, of course, society is permissive enough already as it is. We don't need to make it even more so.
Well, interesting. Well, let's move on to the next one. I wish you can have that on the screen for you to see. Fuse over Delta EPZ. Ishekiri accused Jonathan of ethnicism. Ask Uduahan to resign. And another writer there says threatening secession. Page 6 is where you can get the details of that story. And this one say Boko Haram, the stronger President Jonathan speaks, the stronger they are. I'm sure this is an article on page 10 is where you can get the details of that story. And there is a picture story here. Arms and ammunition recovered from 76 suspected armed robbers, kidnappers paraded by the police in Edo State yesterday. Well, I think this is just a wrap on the Vanguard newspaper.
And now we have the Punch newspaper, and the banner headline reads, 2015 Jonathan schemes for Southwest votes. Bomb blasts rocks Kano. Boko Haram captures Chibok again, and 3 killed in military helicopter. And I want to come to you. When we talk about bomb blasts, we heard the one that happened in a secondary school that claimed about 50 lives, and the president came out to say, don't worry, we need to come together to fight a common enemy. As a Nigerian, do you think an ordinary Nigerian still believes in that promise of the president that we're going to overcome this issue of insurgency?
Whether an ordinary Nigerian believes in it or not, I think that it behoves on all of us to do exactly what the president said. I'm even surprised that he has to say it, because I would have thought that the threat of elimination is very clear and very obvious, even from the statements that have been made from time to time by the Boko Haram people, that what they wish to do is to supplant the Nigerian state and replace it with an Islamic state. And we see what's going on with ISIS in the Middle East, where children are being beheaded I mean, children are getting involved in beheading people and carrying decapitated heads around. Okay, now we see that happening, and we know that Boko Haram and ISIS sort of regard themselves as brothers at arms. Okay, now if what's going on in the Middle East is any indication, then Nigerians should be pulling together.
Okay.
The president should not have to tell us to work together to end the Boko Haram debacle. We should all pull together, or else what's happening in Iraq today is what awaits us.
And of course, there is this picture on the Punch, and a woman seated shortly after she fainted and was revived while awaiting in a queue during the permanent voter card registration exercise in Ifo, Ogun. Are we sure this would not lead to disenfranchisement?
I think that INEC was grossly unprepared for this exercise. There are allegations flying around all over Lagos about INEC ad hoc staff as well as permanent staff collusion with members of the ruling APC in Lagos State to disenfranchise a large swathe of voters, knowing fully well that they have disappointed a large amount of Lagosians and they are not likely to win the next elections. They have embarked on a campaign to disenfranchise large numbers of Lagosians who are not members of the APC. Now we're seeing now that the registration exercise embarked on by the APC, the party registration exercise they embarked on a few months ago with a lot of fanfare, we're now seeing what it was meant for. The whole idea was to get as many people registered with the APC, and then when the time for voter registration came around, they will be able to contact those people, exclusively those people that registered as APC members, even those that were coerced to register, and get them to register as voters exclusively, to the exclusion of everybody else.
Well,
now we are seeing things happening. Murder,
all right,
is happening. I mean, a member of the APC, a gubernatorial aspirant no less, has been arraigned in court for murder over this permanent voter card registration matter. Okay,
of course,
somebody was murdered in Ibejuleki. Well, this is, the murder is a fact.
Yes, I know.
The fact that somebody was murdered over the permanent voter card matter. What happened basically was some APC members apparently went to spread out across the state, and they've been going to polling units to go and collude with INEC staff, ad hoc and permanent, to collect people's permanent voters cards. So apparently somebody was found with a large number of PVCs on him in Ibejuleki, and he was challenged. And the challenge is what resulted in the eventual murder of a PDP member.
Okay, that's the report we're getting from Mr. Babatunde Badamos this morning, and that ends the edition for Paper Review. And of course, we're going to the exclusive interview with I'm tempted to call you Chief Babatunde Badamos. Are you Chief?
No, I'm not. I'm just a plain Mister.
Because this Agbada and all of it, is this what they call Atiku?
I don't know. My wardrobe people insisted that this is what I had to wear in order to look gubernatorial.
Interesting.
Okay, so there's a look for big gubernatorial.
Apparently, yes.
Well, you're really looking good anyway. You're looking good. But let's go straight now to the business of the day. Well, 2015 is around the corner.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and you're one of the aspirants on the platform of the PDP.
Indeed, I am.
Yeah. Well, in 2011, you failed to, clinch your ticket.
That's correct, yes.
Now, and you're coming out again. What are the chances that you might win in the province?
Well, when I came out in 2011, in 2010 actually, is when I threw my hat into the ring.
Okay.
I came out full of hope that perhaps the PDP, having tried several times over the years, 2003, 2007, and failed to clinch the gubernatorial ticket in Lagos State, would perhaps look for a different way of doing things, go down a different road, if you like. And so, having been a member of the party since 2008, I decided to become more active than just attending ward meetings and threw my hat into the ring for the position of governor. As it happened, beyond my ward and local government, not many people knew me, so that was an uphill task. getting around to all the local governments, getting around to all the wards. And in the end, I think perhaps I started a bit late in terms of when I actually started the campaign, which was April 2010, by which time the eventual candidate had been in the field for at least 3 years before that time. So I was playing catch up all the time. And because people didn't really know me in the party, I think there was an issue of trust, that perhaps this person would not know them if he actually became the governor or the gubernatorial candidate and so on. So it worked out as it did back then. But following on that, I have stayed in the field since the general elections in 2011. I've stayed in the field, I've been in the media talking to the general electorate in Lagos State and letting them understand what PDP may have in stock and what the APC is actually doing as opposed to what they say they're doing. And I think that message has resonated. It's resonated to the point that in 2010, of course I said I'm from Ikorodu, in my local government constituency 2, Ikorodu constituency 2, we had an election, a by-election into a House of Assembly seat there. And we won that election. And I believe that's on the back of the work that I did within the Ikorodu federal constituency at the time. Now, going forward into the local government elections immediately after the general elections in 2011, the results of that election were not released officially. Only the outcomes were released. The chairman of LASIEC came on TV and without shame announced outcomes of the elections without actually telling us the voting figures. And I think that's the first time that's ever happened anywhere in the world, or even in Nigeria for that matter, where an election will be held and we will never know how many people voted for this party and how many people voted for that party, and yet we will pronounce a winner. The reason they couldn't give us the figures was because they lost. They lost everywhere in Lagos. They did not win a single councillor.
Now, is there any law,
Well, of course, the law,
to investigate
the law
or to
covering
prosecute?
the law covering the Lagos State council elections is the LASIEC law, which was enacted by an APC-dominated house and signed into law by an APC governor. So, of course, we went to courts, the kangaroo courts and tribunals, and in some cases, candidates were given the elections only to get to the appeal section of their legal process and have it thrown out again. So, for instance, I can give you an example of Badagry local government where the PDP won hands down, and the result was announced by the returning officer in that local government. Okay, I think it was Badagry Central. The lady who was the returning officer made the announcement. Somebody, some smart guy at the venue, at the collation center, actually videoed the announcement on his phone. Okay, and we got that video and posted it on YouTube. It's still on YouTube till now. So if you search Badagry local government election, you will see the returning officer actually announcing that the PDP won with over 7,000 votes and the ACN, as they were then known,
but that was the
came
only
second.
Local government
And
many others.
Today in Badagry local government, an ACN chairman sits there.
Okay, you spoke about the things you felt you didn't do well back then in 2010, and now you're coming, this is 2014, to make yourself aspiring to be the governor come 2015. What, aside from making yourself popular,
it's not about popularity. It's not about popularity.
Getting to the media and voicing your intention.
It's
what
not
has
about
changed
popularity.
in you?
Well, a number of things have changed. First thing is I now have a better understanding of how the internal party politics in the PDP works, the power structures within the party, the various, I won't like to call them factions because there are no factions, but the various power centers within the PDP in Lagos State. I have a better understanding of how they work now. So in terms of the internal politicking, I could somewhat be regarded as an expert when it comes to that. Aside from that, there is internal electorate within the PDP, the grassroots, and I've made a point of cultivating the grassroots a lot more than I did the last time. And I think that has led to a very good rapport between myself and large members of the party across the state.
Have you been to my local government?
What local government would that be?
If for local government.
If for local government is in Ogun State, my dear.
Oh yeah, sorry. What did I just say? I meant beggar, because I've not seen you
That's
around
Ojoji.
beggar.
You're talking
Yes,
about
Ojoji.
Ikeja
Yeah.
local government.
Is it, yeah?
Ikeja local government. Yes, I have been to Ikeja.
Have you
local
been to
government.
beggar?
I have been to Beggar. I have
So
been to
when you
Ojoji.
get to beggar now in your regalia, looking planetarial,
when
when
I'm coming to Beggar, I will not be in this sort of regalia.
So what will you wear?
I'll be more street.
Okay, so give me a picture of what you are likely to wear coming to beggar.
Oh, come on! You are now talking about the finer points of salubriousness, and I'm not really.
Because
going
really
to
it's
that.
the extra.
That's
we
not
don't
what-
want to be stiff here.
That's not what's important. What's
Really?
more
Are you
important
sure?
is what the people of Lagos State want. What
Okay,
their
so what
hopes,
do the
their
people
aspirations,
want?
their ambitions for themselves, for their children, going forward into the next 4 years, 8 years, whatever, what they'd like to have from government.
So what are the things you think a typical Lagosian
Well, it's not about
wants
what I
from the
think.
government?
It's about what we've done a lot of research, and we've come out with quite some interesting figures. Did you know, for instance, that the average household in Lagos spends roughly a minimum of about 500 naira a day on petrol for their I Better Pass My Neighbor generators? Did you know that? Well, we found that out. That's one of the facts we discovered. And we know that if we can plug that hole, if we can close that gap, that's 500 naira extra a day in the pocket of each family. And over a month, over a year, that's a lot of money. It is a lot of money. And we think that because of the enactment of the Electricity Power Sector Deregulation Act in 2005, which removes exclusivity from power distribution and power generation. It used to be exclusive. It used to be purely a federal government affair. But the Electricity Power Sector Deregulation Act has removed that exclusivity so that state governments, businesses, local governments that might want to participate in power generation or power distribution and marketing can do that. The only thing that everybody is still excluded from is transmission. That's a strictly federal matter. So any state government with any sort of imagination and with any sort of drive and with any sort of passion and with any sort of love for their people would make the bold step of setting up new power distribution networks, okay? And to avoid transmission, you just keep it local. You localize it. So for instance, I'd be looking at Ikeja as a new mini-grid, okay? Because of the industrial area that it is, would, invite an IPP to come and serve that captive market, and we would have 24 hours power within 18 months.
Okay, is that one of your one of the agendas or included in your manifesto? We'll come to that. But you said
Yes, it is.
that
Yes, it is.
We'll come to more.
And
of
the
that.
reason it's there
We'll-
is not because I have this fantastic idea that we can produce 24 hours power. It's because I know that if we have 24 hours power, then the average Chukudi will be able to keep that 500 naira extra that is spent every day on
All right.
petrol
All right.
in their pocket
Yeah.
Okay.
for
But
their family.
Have you noticed that when you go, because
And that's just one area where
Of the
Lagosians
many,
have aspirations, where we can actually begin to affect the lives of people in a
Okay.
positive way as government.
But have you noticed that there are some ordinary people who are not thinking of long-term infrastructure, who are not thinking of electricity, who are thinking of what we can get now? I'm meeting you, what can you give me? Are you going to stomach infrastructure?
Majority of Lagosians, and permit me to say this, but this is the truth. The upper middle classes and the middle classes, such as you represent, okay, are in the minority. You are in the minority in Lagos. The majority of people, 90% of Lagosians, are people who are struggling to get by on a daily basis. Now, these guys, you talked about Sumac infrastructure, these guys are the ones that are spending 500 naira a day. Okay, they're the ones having to send their children to substandard private schools in the area because government presence is not available in the educational sector in their local area. There are no schools. Okay, these are the same people that have to pay like 300 naira, 250 naira, 500 naira a day just commuting to and from work. Some people spend as much as 1,000 naira a day in Lagos. And in some cases, the distance involved is not more than about 20, 30 kilometers. Now, ordinarily, if the roads were good and we had alternative means of transport like rail, okay, if we did have it instead of just talking about it, the cost of transport over that sort of distance should not be more than 300 naira at the most, and that would be in a taxi. But unfortunately, because there has not been much addition to the number of roads that we have, no new roads have been built. The old roads have been, some of them have been repaired and decorated and painted and flowers planted along their verge and so on, but no new roads.
Okay.
Very few new roads, and that has resulted in a serious constriction in the central areas of Lagos. Okay, the extremities are totally unserved. They are not just underserved, they are unserved.
Okay.
But you've not, sorry,
okay,
Frank, you
all
have
right.
not answered. Are you going to stomach structure Lagosians or not?
Well, if you're talking about stomach infrastructure, it's all about how much money you have left in your pocket at the end of the month. That's what it comes down to. Okay, so when you say stomach infrastructure, I think that's a very simplistic way of putting the idea of making sure that people can afford to live at a reasonable standard of life from day to day. Now, if you have 15,000 naira,
Sorry, let
if
me
you have
cut you. We
15,000
had
naira
a
every
call
month,
from Olorode. Olorode, good morning. Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
good
You're
morning.
welcome
Go
on Core Digest Extra.
good morning, Loredi.
My name is Comrade Olorode and I'm calling you from
You're welcome. Please go on.
job our beautiful guests that I'm looking at from my home here. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
Thank you very much. I did not know of our guests.
Already, I think you need to turn down your television, the volume. We're getting a lot
Hello?
of feedback.
Hello? Can you hear us? Hello? Yeah, just turn the volume of your TV set down and then you can go ahead. Talk.
I have already done that.
Okay. Oh yeah, go ahead now.
Can I go on now?
Yeah, go ahead. You want to speak to the aspirant? Go ahead.
Beautiful idea is our guests are so far at this point. And it's a member of PDP. At least the same PDP that has accepted nothing and same PDP that has so far supported the guy in all applications. And these personalities are in PDP. Why is it that all these people ideas they are so far saying as long as they have left their party, so the presidency for better explaining on the line? So, for example, him, as beautiful as the idea is, how far has he been able to register to their party? Influence the seat of the Nigerian. That is my concern.
Okay.
Okay, Olorode, I don't think any one of us got.
I think what he asked,
something.
yes, I think towards the tail end I picked up on him asking me how far I'd been able to influence members of my party on something or the other. I didn't quite
Which
get
we didn't get,
the rest of it. But I'm guessing that he's referring to how far I've been able to influence the leaders at the national level on things that can perhaps help Nigerians. And look, at the end of the day, the federal government has policies. They came in, the Good Luck administration came in with plans, okay? And those plans have been executed one after the other. It's a step-by-step process. One of the first things that they did was they brought to a conclusion
All right.
the deregulation exercise of the power sector.
Okay.
Okay, they've done that. And majority of the distribution companies and the generation companies have been handed over to the private investors.
All right.
And that's a major, major first step. We might not be able to see the dividends immediately, but trust me, because it's private sector and they need to make a profit, we will. One of the things that we're trying to do now, one of the areas in which I'm trying to influence a government policy is to encourage the government to force the NERC
Would
to
have to
stop.
touch you again. We have another caller, and Michael from Lagos. Good morning.
Hello, Michael. Good morning.
Morning, Michael.
Now that we've known what Lagos is all about now, and we find out that we have a whole lot of problems as in every time here in Lagos.
Please, could you
that is due to traffic
turn it
on our
down a little
roads.
bit? The volume of your set.
What is on his mind to do for us in order to relieve us of this bondage here in Lagos? Then, aside that, we find out now the population of Lagos has reduced drastically, and we youths are probably clamoring for a change here in Lagos, and they've been sending our youths away from Lagos. And to my great depth of understanding, even your station, I think, has been somehow now in Ogun State. Please, I want to ask from the incoming governor over the years for us as per accommodation.
Okay.
Hello?
You were talking about the involvement of the youth and what your plans are as it concerns accommodation for the people.
30 years ago, Alhaji Lateef Kayode Jakonde ran the government of Lagos State for just a period of 4 years. In that 4-year period, amongst a whole lot of other things that he was able to achieve, he built 20,000 affordable housing units and handed them over to Lagosians that needed them at affordable rates. That was 30 years ago. Today, 30 years after, with several advances in the field of construction and with many, many more engineers, local engineers than we used to have in those days, and with a larger population than we used to have, and therefore a larger tax base, and therefore far more money than was available to the Jakonde administration, I think that we can achieve at least 10 times that. And I'm saying this with my background as a real estate developer. Okay, I know that we can achieve at least 10 times what Alhaji Jakonde achieved within 4 years.
That sounds a big promise, because what we've had in recent
not
years
that big.
are lots of
Trust me.
promises, and we don't get.
Listen to
any.
me carefully.
Yes.
I'm in the luxury real estate development sector. What I do is I build really nice brick houses, okay, and I put them on the market, and discerning buyers come and they pay and they buy. Now I know how long it takes me to construct each house, and that is with painstaking attention to detail, a lot of luxury stuff, granite, POP ceilings, and all this, that, and the other. When we're talking affordable housing, we're not talking about granite floors or marble floors or POP ceilings or dado rails or POP walls or things like that. We're not talking about stuff like that. We're talking about really fairly basic stuff here, where people will be able to improve as their economic circumstances improve, as time goes on. Okay, and I would assume that majority of the uptakers for the affordable housing units that we'll be making available would be younger people just starting out in life. First job as a civil servant, first job as a banker, first job as a TV production assistant, and so on. These are the sort of people that would be targeting with the housing units that will be providing from 1 bedroom to about 4 bedrooms maximum, okay, on the affordable housing scheme that we plan, a minimum of 1,000 for each local government every year on year, over a period of 4 years. Now that's 20,000 housing units per year, and that's 80,000 over a period of 4 years. And by the time we're done, hopefully over a period of 8 years, we'll be looking at 160,000 housing units all over Lagos State. Now, is this possible? I think it is. Advances in construction technology have made it possible for us to roll out a vast swathe of houses over a very short period of time. Okay, if Jakonde was able to achieve that back then, just guess what we can achieve now with what's available now. Even the materials, the building materials that are available now, are far better, way better. We used to have only one type of cement, for instance, just one type. And
Okay.
it wasn't quick setting.
Let's
Now we
mention
have
again,
different
we have
types of cement for
Akinwale.
different applications.
Akinwale
Okay,
calling
let's
from
quickly take
Vega,
this
and
call.
that is my area. Hello, Akinwale. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Baramasi.
Good morning, Akinwale. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Baramasi.
Good morning, Mr. Akinwale. How's Berger today?
Please, I would like to know your plans for the youth.
For the youths.
The youth and the women
And the women.
We the youth with the short change in this present government, and the women have been taken to the background in this present. What are your plans for these people, this set of people?
Well, he's
Hello?
correct that the youths have been relegated to the
Then
background
two,
because I think that's quite
transportation.
sad.
What do you want to
Oh, sorry,
do
he's still
with
there.
this transportation problem in Lagos State?
Yeah, are you still there?
Thank you.
Okay, I guess
Okay, I
it's
think
done
we'll
with
get
what
to
he was saying.
answer the question now.
All right. Now, as far as youths and women are concerned, again, I go back into history. All right. And because, if you don't know your history, you will not know what you're doing now, and you have no idea what you plan to do in the future. The people that have influenced the growth of Nigeria the most have been people under the age of 50 at the time they were active. The Awolowo administration, the West, self-rule between 1952 and 1960. Okay, Awolowo was born in 1909. So by 1952, he would have been how many years old? He would be in his 40s. Right? Most of the people who worked with him at the time were in the same age group or younger than him. All right? And in that period, they were able to establish a government with so many achievements that we're still talking about them today. We're still talking about Awolowo's free education program today. If you go throughout the Southwest, you will see roads, very old village roads that still have asphalt on them, leading to virtually every hamlet in the Southwest. Okay, and these were built by the Awolowo administration. You see water pumps, okay, hand-operated water pumps that were established by the Awolowo government in those days. You'll find that a lot of rural areas are actually electrified and have been since that time. Okay, the stadium at Ibadan was built by that administration. Cocoa House was built by that administration. Television, the first television station in Africa, including Egypt and South Africa, okay, was built by that administration. WNTV.
So what are your own plans for this youth and women?
Let me keep going forward. Now, fast forward to 1966. General Yakubu Gowon was sworn in as the head of state of Nigeria at the age of 27. He had with him a large number of young officers, including Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, who was then, I think, a Colonel Olusegun Obasanjo, who was then made the Federal Commissioner for Works. Okay, as Federal Commissioner for Works, Obasanjo built the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Okay, built the Ring Road Complex in Lagos, started the Third Mainland Bridge.
All right.
Okay, built Festac Town, built Lagos-Badagry Expressway. Okay, built the National Stadium in Surulere.
All right.
Okay, expanded Ikorodu Road, joined it up to Western Avenue, the way we see it now today. All that was done by Obasanjo as a Federal Commissioner for Works under 40.
Okay.
He was under 40
from
at the time.
Ebutemeta.
So, what can we do for the youth today? We need to include more youths in government.
Let's take
Okay,
Shola.
that's what needs to happen.
Let's quickly take
Shola,
this call.
good morning.
Hello, good morning. Shall I go ahead?
Hello.
Yeah,
Morning,
good
Shola.
morning. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, good morning.
Good
We
morning,
can hear
Shola.
you.
How are you?
Hello.
We can hear
Good
you.
morning.
Yes.
Yes, so I want to contribute. I want to ask a question.
Yes.
All right.
Fine. I want to ask a question about this housing of the problem. But generally in those federations, there's no cheap available house for the masses. So about the new technology you are talking about, why can't you ask your federal government, your party that is ruling the whole Nigeria about it? What are they doing? Because nowhere in the federation that you can see is cheap house.
Okay, I guess it's done now.
Yes,
I guess it was talking about housing for the
promise,
masses.
the house scheme at a very affordable rate, and you're coming on the platform of the PDP. What has the federal government?
Oh, the federal government has done a lot. Now, if you might not know about it, but a lot of people around the country are aware that the federal government has actually rolled out a mortgage scheme, okay, that will allow people that would normally not be able to afford their own homes to do so. And they're starting out, I think, with 60,000 homes in the first instance through the Federal Ministry of Housing and the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria. Now, the federal government has pumped a lot of funds into that, and they've made the forms openly available on the internet. If you actually search the Federal Ministry of Housing website, you'll actually find it there. The information is all there. Even the Federal Ministry of Finance is involved in this. Okay, and the Federal Minister, the Minister for Finance has been talking about it. So if people are really interested, they've opened it up for subscribers on the one hand and for developers on the other hand, so that developers can have relatively easier access to cheaper funds, so that it's not the standard Nigerian bank rate of 30%, 28% that they will use to go and develop and then have to pass the cost on to the eventual subscriber. No. What they're doing now is they're providing cheap funds at around 6% or so. I'm a developer, so I know what I'm talking about. Okay, and a lot of developers are keen into it. It will take some time for that project to reach maturity. I think about within the next 18 months or so, we'll begin to see the dividends of this scheme that I'm talking about now. Now, going forward, one of the things that the federal government has been able to do has been to encourage more and more people into the building materials industrial sector, so that you have Dangote expanding their production capacity on a daily basis.
Good luck is calling from Owerri. Good luck, good morning. You're welcome to Core Digest Extra.
Moderator, good morning, sir.
Good morning, good luck. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm coming from Owerri.
How's Owerri?
I want to ask, what do this government have for the youths of Imo State? They come to Imo State, there's high unemployment rate in Imo State.
We're actually talking about Lagos State today, not Imo.
Hello?
Hello, good luck.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Now, the aspirant is in the studio and we're talking about Lagos State.
Insecurity in this country. Hello?
Hello, can you hear me? Mr. Babatunde Badamosi is an aspirant.
Oh, come on. I can't hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay,
He's an aspirant on the platform of the PDP.
Now, as I was saying, as regards the youths, before the housing question was asked, about the youths, we need the energy of the youths. Okay? That has been proven over the years, over the last few decades, that it's always the younger people that will do something out of character, something out of the ordinary, to transform society beyond recognition. Okay? The older you get, the less prone you are to taking risks.
Now
all you are looking to do is preserve
the achievements of these people who have done great things.
No. You're missing the point.
I'm not.
Yes, you are. You're missing
somewhere.
the point. Just hold on a second. Allow me to finish.
If we're saying young people are active in politics and the tendency of the involvement of youth in contributing to the development of the nation, first I want you to declare how old you are and
I'm
your
47.
47, and your intention of, because you not being the only one in government, will have commissioners and all of that. Are we saying people as young as 24, 27, and 30 are the ones you intend, if you emerge the governor of Lagos State, to involve in your government?
Absolutely. That's the sort of energy that I'm looking for. That's the sort of energy, that's the sort of vision, that's the sort of vigor, that's the sort of vim that I'm looking for in my administration going forward. I'm looking for younger people. My uncle, Chief Rashid Badamosi, was appointed Economic Development and Establishment Commissioner in Lagos State in 1972 at the age of 28. He was 28. But because he was 28, because he was young, he was full of ideas. And he was ready to execute them, and he did. He set up LSDPC. Okay? Built Adeniro Ogusoya Shopping Center, Falomo Shopping Center, and did a lot of work in the area of housing. So, are the youths better in terms of getting out there and getting the job done? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because they're focused on this. They want to build a career. They haven't arrived yet. They're still on their way. So there is a lot of motivation for them to do, for them to exceed, for them to do well, for them to excel. Okay? Look at the Premiership. The English Premiership that we all celebrate today and run to our TVs to turn on when Arsenal and Manchester United play. Do you know that previous to 2001, it was just the English League, and it was not as glamorous as it is today. And then the English Football Association took a very, very risky step. They employed a 36-year-old as the chief executive of the FA, Adam Crozier. And he revolutionized English football and turned it into what it is today. I'm not saying that all youths are the best or good, but I am saying that if you can find young people with any modicum of intelligence and brilliance, then please, by all means, put a square peg in a square hole and watch them fly.
Okay, let's quickly look at this. Lagos in the past 7.5 years, everybody knows, even PDP, your party, attests to it, that they are doing very well. Now, what?
Who's doing that?
That the one led by
the present administration,
government, led APC led government,
when
led
PDP attest to that,
led by Governor Babatoundé Raji Fashola.
Sorry,
and PDP says he's done well. Even everyone
when you need to be specific.
It's in the papers. We see it in the papers that he's doing well in Lagos.
Which paper?
Now, what exactly
Because
are you bringing on board this time?
The PDP I belong to is far more forward-looking than that. The PDP I belong to is far more innovative than that. The PDP I belong to is far more empathetic.
Sir, please,
to the
we'll
needs and
continue. We
yearnings of
have
the people.
Bamidele calling from Port Harcourt. Bamidele, good morning. Hello, Bamidele.
Hello, Bamidele. Good morning. Go ahead.
Hello.
Bamidele, don't be shy. Speak up. We're waiting for you.
Hello.
Go on.
Hello.
Yeah, hello, Bamidele. Go ahead and talk.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Bamidele. How are you?
Yeah, I want to speak on PDP Lagos with governorship action.
Yes.
Hello?
I'm listening.
I'm not surprised about his comment concerning Lagos State. There is no aspirant that will take opposition party. I have not seen it. Lagos State, to me, I consider Lagos State as a fortunate state under the umbrella of 80.
You mean under the broom?
8 years. Fashola has really transformed Lagos State. In fact, Lagos State is a mega city. It's as if Lagos State is not part of Nigeria. So I see no reason why somebody should come on there and start saying do better than what Fashola, what we've seen on ground now. Hello? Hello?
We're here with you.
Go ahead, Bamidele.
On ground now. If you look at PDP nationally, you see corruption everywhere. And I cannot believe a snake will give back to an animal that you can take. So you cannot take it. What my take about Lagos State. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. Back to that question.
I was talking about youths and women. Now, with regard to women, you've seen over the years that the PDP at the national level has made very serious progress in the area of appointing women into public offices, as well as encouraging women to run for elective positions. Okay, with our constitution, it's written into our constitution that at least 30% of positions be reserved for women. And you'll also notice that our ministers have been getting younger and younger. Okay, he was also appointed Chukwemeka Chikelu. We appointed the other gentleman for information, I forget his name now, and we've been using a lot of younger and younger people to, Akinwumi Adesina is the current Minister for Agriculture, and he's doing a fantastic job as a young man.
I want us to come down from
that policy at the federal level is what I intend to mirror at the state level. At the very minimum, 35% of positions in Lagos State at the cabinet level and at every other level will be reserved for women. I'm encouraging as many women as possible to run for House of Assembly seats in Lagos State. I was still talking to one just yesterday from one of the local governments. I'll keep that under my hat for the moment. But the truth is, we tend to find that women generally are more compassionate. Women generally, because they have children, are just warmer and far more honest than men tend to be. And they're less prone to, getting into fights over ego and things like that. They're less prone to stuff like that. And
so then should we leave the governorship seats to women? Before you answer that call, Suleiman is calling from Lagos. Suleiman, good morning.
Good morning, Suleiman. How are you?
You're welcome on Call Digest Extra.
Hello, Suleiman. Go ahead. Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Please, my name is Lemon Abdelhamid. I'm calling from Lagos State. I am a citizen of Borno State. I want to contribute for that PDP program is going on now. It is one time the governor that want to contribute to PDP. What does he do? What about the integral party of PDP is doing in Borno State? If he says he wants to the youth today in country, Nigerian country, you wouldn't believe your party, you wouldn't believe youth are killing in the Borno State. I am from Borno State. I know what is going on in my local government. Your previous interview in Kuchibi, you know that there are no any local hunters taking over your local government. I will compound you that. They take over movie and the annual local government and order. Any solution, don't be surprised. If they ask you, answer the question. The previous caller asked you some questions, you deny the answer, but you continue discussion. Please, I respect you, and we are now that speaking. If you want your party contesting in Lagos State, please bring peace into the country. Look at Lagos State. I am here in Lagos State. Please, at least no matter what APC do, they bring peace. I can sit down, I can work anywhere I like, day and night. Peace day, but I cannot sit down in a car and I will not step. Why? Are we not national Nigerian? We are Nigerian as well. If we are going to be a government, the first state security, no matter what is going on, the ban Okada, we are the one that drive Okada in Lagos State. We are Nalan that drive Okada. But security, we can go.
I think we have to let you go now.
But security, we are talking about the main problem of the country.
Hello, Sulaiman. We have to let you go now. Thank you very much. I guess we're talking about what is happening in Borno State, and it probably is linking it to other state, PDP governed states. But
I think he mentioned something about him being one of the people that used to ride Okadas
in Lagos State and
was
was
banned and chased away.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't want you to react to that first. But let's quickly go to the question I asked earlier. You've not answered that question. How do you intend to beat that bar of governance that everybody say has been raised in Lagos State by the current administration?
Look, I am used to much higher standards.
How do you intend to beat that?
Hold on a second, please.
Okay.
I'm far more used to much higher standards of governance
than
what passes for government in Lagos State today. I mean, look, what's the position of Lagos State on the WAEC list? Let's talk about education. Let's talk about healthcare. Okay? How many patients does the Lagos State Ministry of Health treat on an annual basis? How many go to private hospitals? In fact, how many government hospitals are there in Lagos State today? And how many private hospitals? I think if you check, you find that there are more private hospitals. Okay, they treat far more patients than the government hospitals in Lagos State. In fact, the federal hospitals in Lagos State actually treat far more patients than the entire Lagos State service. And how do I know that? There are 300 odd doctors in the employ of Lagos State government. Luth alone has over 1,000 doctors. Just Luth alone. I haven't even talked about the National Medical Center in the railway compound in Ebutemeta. I have not talked about Igbobi Orthopedic Hospital. I have not talked about the mental hospital at Yaba. I have not talked about the respiratory diseases hospital in Yaba as well. I have not mentioned the dental hospital on Lagos Island. Okay, now these are all federal institutions, federal medical institutions, and they treat more people. Between them, they treat far more people than the Lagos State Ministry of Health hospitals. All of them treat on an annual basis, on a daily basis. Now, if these hospitals were not in Lagos, we would be in serious trouble. We would be. And my point is, because I'm used to higher standards, I spent 17 years in the UK. And in the 17 years that I spent in the UK, when I came back to Lagos State, I was in shock at the level of public services compared with the profile of the same government that we saw in the media.
Okay, would definitely
take you
how much
was being spent on information and strategy by the Lagos State government. For instance, this year, 2014, the budget for information and strategy in Lagos State is 28 billion. The federal budget for information is 16 billion. That tells you everything.
So, been called extra, and it's been a wonderful time with Babatunde Gbadamosi, a gubernatorial aspirant on the platform of the People's Democratic Party. And of course, we'll be back in the studio with him. But for now, we have to take a break to bring you a commercial. Stay with us.
Has it been a difficult task for you to purchase exquisite, classic, durable and sturdy furniture that will last the test of time? Here is good news for you. Purchase high-quality furniture for your household, offices, hotels, and schools at Prince Interior Furnishing and Furniture Company Limited. Office address, Goshen Plaza, Showroom 28, Kubo Furniture Market, AYA, Nyanya Road, Abuja. Telephone 0803 119 1444 or 09291 7482. Email princeemeka240@yahoo.com. info@princeinterior.com. Website www.princeinterior.com. Purchase your furniture at Prince Interior Furnishing and Furniture Company Limited. Classic, strong, exquisite.
Thank you so much for being there with us on Core Digest Extra. I keep emphasizing that extra. And of course, we still have Batunde Badamosi. Should I add Chief Batunde? Maybe I should give you Chief here.
Mr. He's as always said.
I know, but what if I confer on you, Chief? Won't you say yes to it?
Well, I'll
so that you sound gubernatorial too.
I'll thank you very much, and I'll have you wait until I'm 60.
Okay, before the chief. Yes. Okay, before we went on this break, you were talking about the budget allocated to information and strategy in Lagos State being way above what it reflects from the federal government. And you also said you've been away for 17 years.
Well, I haven't been away for 17 years. I was away for 17 years.
Okay, you
and
were
I've been
away
back in Nigeria for at least the last 7 years or so.
7 years. It sounds to me like you ran away from the many problems you had in Nigeria.
Well, no, not really. I mean, people my age back then all wanted to go abroad. I'm sure a lot of people your age are now talking about the same thing, wanting to relocate to the US or to the UK to go and find the golden fleece, or make a different way for themselves in life and so on. It's an eternal aspiration that people have to have a better life. Now, the reason that I came back was because I felt that I could contribute better to society in Nigeria with all the skills and all the knowledge and all the experience that I've gathered over the years.
We'll cut you again. Ayodeji is calling from Oshobu. Ayodeji, good morning. Good morning, Ayodeji.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, go straight to point and make it quick, Ayodeji. Hello? Yeah, we have to let you go there.
I think my comments about
let's go back to what you were saying.
So in terms of, when you say...
why we have about the training.
Sorry, there's somebody.
You still have him there?
We taking PDP in Lagos to be about the credibility of the candidate. If the candidate is credible, I'm telling you, PDP is going to take back Lagos. Not that Fashola is working, but if PDP can work on their candidate, looking into the antecedent of the personality and the credibility of the candidate of the PDP, I tell you, PDP will win back Lagos.
Well, thank you very much. I think that will be the last call for today. We can't take any more call now so that we can concentrate on our guests for today. Let's run through what you have for Lagos.
I want to start
your
with
manifesto.
I want to start with power. Power is the most important thing. The Bible itself says, when God created the earth, he started with light. He said, let there be light. Okay? So creation started with light. I am going to start in Lagos with light. Power.
All right.
But it's not in isolation. What I have in mind and what we have planned is an integrated regeneration scheme, starting with 6 of the most industrialized local governments in Lagos State, namely Ikeja, Ikorodu, Apapa, Oshodi, Solo, Mushin, and Ibejuleki being the last one. Ibejuleki is also the most interesting one because it's largely rural, it's largely undeveloped, and it's quite empty. Okay, that gives us a template to be able to go in there and terraform, as it were, put in infrastructure, good roads, good drainage, civil works for gas distribution, water distribution, sewage collection. I mean, it's amazing that sewage in Lagos is not central, it's unbelievable. And that's something that we intend to address on a local government by local government basis. The era of tankers, sewage tankers driving up and down Lagos, going to pump sewage from people's soakaway, that era must come to an end. It's so old, it's so ancient, it's so nasty, and it's so unhealthy. That is something that we must stop. And the only way to do that is to build central sewage systems all over Lagos State. Okay, and I'm starting with these 6 local governments. So roads, drains, sewage, water,
All right.
gas distribution, and civil works for telecoms.
Okay.
Now, one area, somebody asked me earlier what I was going to influence the PDP. One of the things I'm doing right now is I'm putting a position paper together for the NCC, the National Communications Commission, because I'm aware that what they're trying to do right now is to license a single wired telecoms operator for Lagos State. And I disagree with that. The whole point of liberalizing the communication sector, okay, is to allow competition. And if we're going to allow competition, as we've done in the wireless sector, why should we have exclusivity or monopoly in the wired sector? Lagos is on the cusp of a digital revolution. The people in charge now have no idea what that could mean or what it could be. Because if they did, they would not set up La Simra and put Joey Bokwe at the head of it to charge 3,000 naira per meter, per linear meter, to the telecoms operators to be able to lay their cables. Now, I don't want to charge anything. I want Lagos wired up as quickly as possible.
It's going to be free?
So that it's going to be free to the telecoms operators, because we need them more than they need us.
All right.
They're already making money from wireless, and they're making money from wireless internet. I think that we Lagosians, the Lagos economy, needs to be wired up as quickly as possible in order to allow for an e-economy to really take off. Okay? We have a situation now, you go into a supermarket, you want to pay with your card, 9 times out of 10 is going to fail. The transaction will fail 9 times out of 10. And that's because the wireless networks that they're loading all these things on are not built to carry that kind of data. They simply are not. You need wired networks. There is no city in the world that is of any major economic importance that doesn't have a very solid, very robust wired telecoms network serving it. Singapore, London, New York all have broadband internet wired. Only Lagos doesn't.
Okay,
and
what
that's
are the
a
other
situation that I
things you
want to
want to do?
rectify.
Of course, this that you've said is quite beautiful.
The wired, the fact of having a wired digital network in Lagos, just changes. It's a game changer. It changes the economy totally, so that it becomes almost completely knowledge driven. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. One of the areas in which we're missing out, we have 3 transatlantic cables, okay, that link Nigeria to mainland Europe for the purposes of internet. All right, so we're bringing in terabytes of data, but there's a bottleneck in Nigeria itself, in Lagos, where the cables land. The owners of the cables cannot actually sell their bandwidth. They can't get it all out because there is no landline communication. Now, if we have that, we will be able to tap into the server hosting market. Right now, you want to host a website in Nigeria,
and you can't.
You can't.
Okay.
You pay somebody in the US to host it for you.
Ebolomo has a question.
No, actually, we're rounding off already.
Okay.
And we've reeled out beautiful ideas and all of that. And we still have lots of questions to ask you. And I hope that next time we'll call on you, you'd answer us, because
Absolutely.
I know people at home still want more. But then, you've mentioned so many technicalities that some people might not understand. We, the youths, want to know how much you will identify with us during your campaign. You're going to sing, you're going to dance. We want to see the other side of you that is not the stiff and serious.
Again,
so you're going to mention, you're going to do my bidding this time.
Yes.
You're going to mention 2 artists, Nigerian musical artists that you know, and sing a song. Very quickly, we're rounding off now. Number 1,
Asha.
Asha.
Oh, you love Asha.
You love
2? It's a really close call.
Oh yeah.
Between
So, do you know the band? Do you know? Okay.
It's a really close call between
The band and.
the band.
Are you going to say Olamide?
Yeah, I like Olamide actually.
Do you know
I like
Bucci?
Olamide.
Do you know Bucci?
I was going to mention Don Jazzy as well.
So sing Bucci as we round up. Okay, you
I
have
don't
to
have
learn
this.
it.
If I started singing here, I think you would lose a lot of viewership.
Seriously, you can't be that
I
bad.
don't, it can't be
Okay,
that
so
bad.
you better prepare for the song you sing for us next time you come in, because I'll still ask
I'll
you.
practice something and I'll go and see my doctor about my voice.
Okay, it's been a wonderful time with Babatunde Gbadamosi, gubernatorial aspirant on the platform of the People's Democratic Party. I know you still have lots of questions for him and lot. You can reach our Twitter handle at CORETV News NG, on Facebook to facebook.com/CORETV News NG. And next Saturday too would get to see more of these extras, and of course there are lots of packages. We get to have a business roundup next week, and we might just be bringing a celebrity, Frank.
Not only business, we might be bringing celebrities, comedians, we might be bringing musicians who will come into the studio to do your bidding live.
And they will sing.
They will sing.
Okay, you're trying to push it now. Okay, it's been a wonderful time.
Thank you very much.
For coming.
Thank you very much for coming on the show.
And thank you, viewers, for calling in. Thank you very much.
And that's it. I am Eveloma Dikuli. And
I am Frank Omalape.
thank you.
Up next, it's news on the hour.
Nigerians are expected to seek out the best. 2 words to describe the activity. The Yoruba Unity Forum is conducting.
Be the first to know. From the north, south, east, west, and around Africa,
Presidential
we break the news. Now you can catch all the actions live as the news breaks. We are CORETV News,
Welcome to CORETV Primetime
a 24-hour news station.